And good morning to everybody. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity, and thank you for the invitation. I've tried to choose topics that I hope will be of interest to students and a wide range of experiences, and hence the topics are not too technical. I have prepared 6 presentations which we can go through today and then again on Tuesday. I'm thinking that we could have question periods after each presentation. And so here's the topics I've chosen for today. Careers in economic geology, what is it for my future? And obviously this is something for the students to consider. And then exploration case histories, which are based on personal experience for deposits in South Korea, Mongolia, and Myanmar. And then the third presentation deals with my views on future trends for exploring and developing large copper deposits. On Tuesday, a little bit more of an academic topic about tourmaline breccia pipes, which is applicable actually to most types of breccia pipes. And then I thought that some presentation about the jadeite deposits of Myanmar, Guatemala, and Kazakhstan might be of interest, particularly for the senior geologists who are attending from Myanmar. And then finally, what I consider to be the key requirements for exploration success. To go to the first presentation, okay, so careers in exploration geology. There's a very, very wide range of choices that a young person studying geology might have. And clearly it's not just about exploration. There's some of the different topics that you might be interested in, and this could be either industry or academia. So there's many career choices, and possibly it will only be towards the end of your academic degree that you find which particular topic might be of interest to you. The important thing is to find something that you are really interested in passionate about. The perception of an exploration geologist is not widely understood by the general public. And here's a few depictions of what some of these concepts might be. Me personally, I'm probably on the top right as an exploration geologist. I really like looking at rocks, and I like traveling to the field. Here are some of the main branches that you might find of interest. There's actual geology, which is the study of rocks in the field, basically. There's the geochemistry, which is the interpretations of the formations of the rocks and possibly looking for economic mineral deposits. Then we have the more technical aspects, such as geophysics, where we look for clues below the current surface as to where ore bodies might be. We have mining, which is really the business end of geology, as is geometallurgy, the processing. And then finally, we have geoenvironmental, which of course deals with preserving the environment after mining. So here's the mining value chain. It starts with the acquisition of an area. It could be an existing tenement. It could be a new application. It could be an old mine. Then we have the exploration phase, the mineral resource estimation and reserves. Then we have to plan the mine, operate the mine, and process the ore. All of these require particular skills, and they're all different branches of the geological profession. So acquisition really is a desktop study, perhaps with some field visits, where you select an area to do your exploration. And this requires some due diligence and market analysis. Is it the commodity that you're looking for? Is it prospective for that commodity? And that's really the front end of the business. That's then followed by exploration. Exploration, as we know it, has been going back to the times of Agricola more than 600 years ago. And today it's a very modern science. We have a lot of different techniques and we use various models. And that is mostly involving field work. For resource estimation, we've completed our field work and we're now looking at the drill core, all of the data that we've collected, geologic maps, sample information, perhaps geophysics, and looking at, is this potentially an economic mineral deposit? If so, we then start to look at reserve estimation. And this is a different set of skills. It involves a lot of interpretation of data in a 3D sense and many different aspects such as rock mechanics, engineering, geometallurgy, environmental, financial models, and a number of other skills. Then, of course, is the mine planning. So everything we've done so far is really positive, and it looks like that we can make a profitable mine for the benefit of society and also for the shareholders who invest the money. And this involves a lot of mine modeling, how to make this a profitable mine. And it's quite different actually to the earlier skills, which are more field-based. Both resource estimation, reserves and mine planning and operations can all be done from a central location, either from a head office or actually at the mine site. And then there's the geotechnical, which is extremely important because it's necessary to understand all of the things, the issues that could go wrong if you don't have the geotechnical planning correct. And that involves a lot of rock mechanics, things like seismic events, natural disasters, all of the issues that could make the difference between success and failure. So that is another different set of skills. And then there's the geometallurgy. This is becoming, or is already, a very important part of what needs to happen for the development of an economic deposit. Because if we can't effectively recover the metals, whether it might be gold or copper, profitably, well, then we don't have an economic deposit. And geometallurgy is it's a crossroads between the information that's collected by the geologist, even as early as the field work, right through to microscopic studies and engineering, design, and recovery of the metals. So this too is another very important field. And then finally, once we've efficiently mined our mineral deposit, it's necessary for companies to responsibly reclaim the area and address mine closure and all the geo-environmental issues. And this involves a number of branches of science. It involves hydrology, understanding the biology and all the chemical and physical aspects that have been impacted by the mining. So there's just some examples of the different career paths that one could choose for your future. For exploration geologists, really it's somebody who likes the outdoors and field work. Me personally, I've always liked the outdoors. I've liked camping. And so exploration for me is not really a job. It's a pleasure. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Other people might be much more interested in geochemistry. They like spending time in the lab, analyzing chemical data. And then we have another different mindset, which is processing data. And that's equally important because that involves things like geochemistry, mine planning, and some of the things I mentioned earlier. But if you like exploration, you're probably somebody who likes the outdoors and field work. Exploration is absolutely not for everybody. There are so many other choices apart from exploration, and something to consider actually in an exploration career is after 5 to 10 years experience, you possibly have a family or you're thinking about starting a family and you require more time at home with your family. So this is an important consideration. It happens typically in mid-career, and it's something to consider if you're looking at an exploration career. Exploration has taken me to many different countries and environments. It's almost like geotourism. I'm getting paid to travel around the world and have adventures. And here's some of just a few examples of different exploration camps. This one is in Greenland. Here's an exploration camp, a typical early exploration camp in the jungles of Ecuador. This deposit became an economic situation and it's now in construction, but this was the early history of this deposit. When working in Indonesia, I was working in Kalimantan and we were doing exploration in remote areas, and the only way to reach some of these areas was by the rivers. And here's an example of using local canoes. The water was very shallow, and whilst pushing the canoe, we noticed coliform banded epithermal float in the river. And this became the discovery for the July-May wet epithermal vein systems in northeast Kalimantan. I spent a number of years working in Mongolia, and the exploration there was a tremendous adventure. We were using Russian helicopters. We had our own fuel truck. We could travel thousands of kilometers over a 10-day to 2-week period. We had everything we needed to camp out, and we covered much of Mongolia exploring for copper and gold using these kinds of techniques, aerial reconnaissance, and camping out. Mentorship is also critically important because as a young person or an early career professional, it's really important to react or interact with senior professionals who can provide you with very good advice. And this means things that work, things that don't, and how you can improve or upskill your future career. So motivation and success are extremely important aspects of mentorship, and I'll talk a bit more about this. So it's important for the younger generation to be proactive. Identify mentors, go out, talk to them, meet them, interact. It's equally important for the older generation, such as myself, to also be proactive and be available to spend time with the future generations, both in training and advice. Early in my career, as Mo mentioned, I started out in Papua New Guinea and I was looking for porphyry copper deposits. The issue was that I really had no idea what a porphyry copper deposit was. I was working for Anglo American. That was a South African company primarily producing gold and diamonds. And nobody in America, in Anglo American, knew what a porphyry copper was either. So for the first 3 years, I was actually quite lost. I had no experience with porphyry copper deposits, and I had nobody who could really help me. After about 3 years, there was a workshop sponsored by the Australian Mineral Foundation on the island of Bougainville, where there was an existing porphyry copper deposit. I paid my way to attend this workshop, which was given by a very famous American porphyry copper geologist whose name was Professor Lacey. So in 10 days of that workshop, I learned more than I had in 3 years wandering around the jungle. Much later in life, I was working with a Filipino team on the island of Mindanao in a place called Antina. And we were exploring for porphyry copper deposits. I'd had the time to mentor and train these young people. And whilst we were drilling, we made a discovery. And once the core was coming out of the drill, all of these young geologists knew exactly what it meant. And it was a very exciting period in their career. So training and mentorship are extremely important. And above all, teamwork. Everyone has a role to play, and we all need to work as a team. A few words about the Society of Economic Geologists. This is the world's largest body of geologists, mostly working in the exploration and mining industry. It's been in existence for over 100 years, and it's an absolutely wonderful organization. For students, the fees and opportunities are heavily discounted. However, I realize not everybody could afford to do this. And what I suggest as a society, perhaps, or your institute, you could have one member who could then share all of the data and benefits with the rest of the members. So this slide is from a little while ago, but as I mentioned, the society is over 100 years old. I think there's now 6,500 members from at least 100 countries. And most importantly, we have 111 student chapters in 31 countries. We provide financial support to students, and a big part of what we do is we fund field trips, webinars, and other activities, an annual conference, etc. Education and training is really one of the core goals of the society, and there's some of the things that we are heavily involved with and continue to work on to provide training and aid for advancement of young professionals and students. Recently, I was on an international student trip to Turkey, wherein 18 participants from all around the world, students, were able to visit a number of mines over a 2-week period, all sponsored by the Society of Economic Geologists. We do virtual short courses, and there's a huge amount of information on the web that's readily available, even to non-members. So membership really means more. I highly recommend that at least one person from your institute become a member. There's a journal that's produced 4 to 6 times a year. There's a lot of very valuable information, technical papers, and it keeps you up to date with the science of economic geology. There's also a newsletter which comes out quarterly, and this too is a very valuable source of information and commentary. On the website, you can find an oral history series, and this is free. You don't even have to be a member. And this is a number of videos that are recorded by members about their careers, both from academia and industry, both male and female, and it's multicultural. So that list on the bottom, the names there are some of the people who have made these recordings, and you could scan these to see which might interest you, and you can listen to basically their life story. It's free and it's very interesting. I mentioned mentorship. Please be proactive and try to find somebody who has the experience that might be the topic that you're interested in. The SEG has a mentorship page, and I think there's more than 80 mentors readily available whom you can contact, male and female, academia and industry, and multicultural. So you can identify somebody who has the experience that you might be considering as a career, and you can talk to them, and they will always get a response. Membership, 26% of the membership are actually students, and then the rest basically are from industry. There's the web link to apply to join, and it's a simple process. Anyone that's interested to join, you need one sponsor, and I would be more than happy to do that. You simply fill out the form, and then the application would come to me, and then I respond, and then your application is in process. Another great organization to belong to is called the Applied Society for Geology Applied to Mineral Deposits. And this is another great organization. It's not quite as big as the SEG, but they too have a journal that has a lot of technical papers and a newsletter, which also has a great deal of information. So memberships of both these two organizations would be, provides you with an incredible amount of information. Here are some webinar sites. The one really positive thing that came out of the COVID-19 pandemic was introduction of webinars. And this turned out to be an absolute treasure trove of information. So here are some free, these are all free websites that you can go to for a long list of webinars and recorded presentations. The ones I particularly like is GeoHug. That's extremely good, and there's literally hundreds of presentations there to look at. The third one is the Geological Society of South Africa, and they produced webinars on a wide range of geological careers and topics. And that's too is very good. And then, as is the AIG, they have hundreds of webinars available for students and professionals to view. It's all free. And the bottom website with the yellow star is the world's best database for mineral deposits. You can literally look up any mineral deposit of medium to large size, and you can obtain a one-page summary about the geology of that deposit. There are thousands of mineral deposits available to look at for a one-page summary of the deposit. For those of you interested in mineralogy or geologists in general, this is by far the best website available, www.mindat.org, and it gives you very comprehensive information about any recognized mineral. It's free, and there's a lot of information on that. I use it all the time, and I find it very useful. I'm not really computer literate, but here are some of the sites that friends have recommended to me for really state-of-the-art software that geologists are using now. And some of you may be familiar with these programs. If not, you can easily access the website and find out more information. I like to read books, and here is a fantastic book that was published over 10 years ago by Mike Searle from the UK. And it's basically all of his work over decades while mapping the Himalaya mountains. And some of that would include the Eastern Himalayas adjacent to Myanmar. This book it's almost a geological travel log. It's scientific in content, but there are hundreds of fantastic geologic photos. So if you are looking for an inspirational read about geology, then this is what I would recommend. Networking is really important, and that really is part of mentorship. As a young career professional or student, if you can attend conferences, this is an example of one that's held in Canada early March every year, and it attracts 26,000 delegates, all from all aspects of the exploration and mining industry and academia and professional societies and the business community. But it's a fantastic opportunity to meet people, talk to people, and learn more about careers that you might be interested in. So be proactive, attend as many conferences as you possibly can, network with your peers. Internship is also important. Whenever there's an opportunity for internship, don't hesitate to take it, because it gives you a preview of a topic you may or may not be interested in your career. So I highly recommend internships where possible. Don't even think about any monetary reward. Just take the opportunity to get some experience. As a young person or a recent graduate, you may be looking for a position either in academia or industry, and that means creating a very good biodata. The best that I've seen are available on the two websites at the bottom. One is a webinar about what's important in your biodata or CV and what's essential to attract the person who's reading it. If an employer has 50 applications for a job, you have about 30 seconds to make an impression with your CV. And so these are the practical tips that will help once you are being interviewed or you've sent your biodata. It probably will take you to the next step with your potential employer. We saw this slide earlier, and it just emphasizes all the various opportunities and career paths that you have within geology. So I'd like to, for the students that are present, I would like to emphasize you create your own destiny, be proactive, and you have a great future in front of you. So that concludes the first presentation. If there are any questions, I would be happy to try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. So I would like to open the floor to have questions. If you have anything to ask, yeah, for the first session.